G'day, and welcome to ComicsMATE, your mates in comics from the land down under. I'm Dean James, and today we're going to be talking about Episode 2 of the newly released Xmen 97. If you missed my breakdown and review of Episode 1, you can check that out here. But if you've already seen that, welcome back. And if you haven't already, please like this video to help push it out into the algorithm, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Now let's jump right into this. Episode 2 was a massive step up on Episode 1. Now that we have all of the introductions out of the way, the series was able to jump right into the overarching story and give us a lot more action. Titled Mutant Liberation Begins, it was basically an episode based off of the trial of Magneto, with some of the other main plot points of the series tied into it. Before we get into the details, yes, Magneto's costume is stupid, but it is from the original run in the comics. It looks stupid then, and it looks stupid now, but it's nothing new. If anything, it's just another example of the show being true to the source material. The episode opens with a news report showing a Ferris wheel collapsing before it and everyone in the immediate area are saved by Magneto, which causes confusion to say the least, considering Magneto is seen as a terrorist in the eyes of the general public. We then cut to beneath the city, where the Morlocks are being attacked by the FOH. Notably, we get to see their leader, Callisto, and the pathetic and pitiful child, Leech, as well as a few others, but they don't get any lines, they're just in the background. Magneto rescues them, making short work of the humans, sticking them to walls using the sewer pipes and other metals from the sewer, ending the scene with him reassuring Leech that they will never be hurt again. Back at the mansion, we see the X-Men having a meeting about what Xavier was even thinking by leaving everything to Magneto in the first place. Understandably, a lot of them hate Magneto and don't want him anywhere near them, especially Cyclops. Magneto interrupts, trying to settle the debate in his own special way that only someone like Magneto can, by which I mean not at all, ending the scene. Later, we get a touching conversation between Jean and Storm, where Jean explains that she's afraid for her unborn son, hoping he is born human and not a mutant. Storm reassures her, and we move to later that night, where Rogue and Magneto speak about their history, Charles, and the great respect Magneto had for him. They're interrupted by helicopters outside the mansion. It's the UN, here to arrest Magneto for all of his past crimes against humanity. He displays his superiority against them, but allows himself to be arrested as a sign of good faith. Which is where we get to the main attraction of this episode, the trial of Magneto. Some of the X-Men are there for the trial, partly to protect Magneto, partly to make sure he doesn't do anything to the innocent people there. He gives a classic Magneto speech that we've all heard some version of before, talking about how he was a freak and has been hunted his entire life, but Charles had a dream where we could all live in harmony, and he wants to continue that dream, paying respects to his dead friend. Unfortunately, there is a mob of regular people outside who don't want Magneto to even face trial, and instead just want him dead. The security is unable to stop them, and they make their way into the courtroom. At the same time, Jean's water has broken and she needs Logan to rush her to the hospital to give birth now. The X-Men do what they can to stop the mob from breaking in, but they're being overrun, led by a character, the Executioner, who is one of the human supremacists from the first episode, now in a special armor, and with a secret weapon he has designed especially for Magneto. Jean uses her powers to let Scott know what's happening with her, so Rogue is told to take him to the hospital immediately. Meanwhile, Storm is taking control of the situation inside the courtroom, demanding they all do as she says and release Magneto for the moment at least. At the hospital, the doctor is refusing to deliver a baby for a mutant, so Rogue is forced to take his knowledge using her powers and perform the delivery herself. Back at the courthouse, the humans have broken through all of the defenses and are facing off with Magneto and Storm, who quite frankly are handling them like they're nothing. Until, that is, the Executioner shows up, aiming his rifle at Magneto, but before he can pull the trigger, Storm jumps in between them, taking the shot for Magneto, rendering her weak, and without her powers, she can no longer control the weather. Seeing her in such a state makes Magneto mad. He takes the Executioner, pinning him to the UN symbol, lifting him and the entire desk of judges up out of the building, high into the sky. He then gives another great speech about how they are small and he could smite them if he really wanted to, but instead he has saved them from the mob because an old friend has challenged him to be better. Ending his speech with a great quote, "Please do not make me let you down." Back at the hospital, we see Jean has given birth to Nathan Summers without any problems, so they're doing great. Unfortunately, Storm isn't doing great. Beast is doing some tests and informs her that it seems her powers have been lost permanently. This honestly killed me. Storm has always been one of my favorites, and the way they animated this scene was truly heartbreaking. Because of this, late that night, Storm decides to leave the mansion in secret, leaving a note for Jean to say goodbye to everyone for her. During this scene, we see that Rogue has gone to visit Magneto in his room, where using his powers he is able to actually touch her hand. This is something Gambit sees, but she doesn't see him. It ends with Jean reading the letter to the entire group before the doorbell rings, revealing Jean at the door. She collapses after saying she needs the X-Men's help, and that's where the episode ends. Quick spoiler for anyone who hasn't read the comics, the Jean that is now married to Scott and just gave birth to Nathan aka Cable is actually a clone. I was talking with my friend about the whole clone Jean thing before it happened, and he was convinced it wouldn't happen in the show, which we both agreed wouldn't be a big deal, but it seems he was wrong and I was right. Ha! Either way, that's definitely going to be a major plot point going forward, so I won't spoil the exact details of all of that, but just know that was the real Jean who was at the door. This episode was honestly awesome. I've said many times before on this channel that Magneto is my all-time favorite villain, and this show is really giving me what I want to see when it comes to the master of magnetism. The animation still looks choppy in some parts, but as I said in the first episode, the action mostly looks great. I can only hope they get a budget increase moving into season 2. And not a single bit of modern day woke politics. I have a zero tolerance policy for any of that shit in my entertainment, and as you can see in this video, there isn't any of it. I honestly think that if the showrunner of this show, who was recently fired because of his gay porn OnlyFans page conflicting with what Disney wanted, had just kept his mouth shut about all the non-binary nonsense, none of the controversy surrounding this show would have even happened. As of episode 2, there is no evidence that this is even a thing, and there's no signs of gay Wolverine or trans Rogue. They made Cyclops a badass throughout, and Storm is both powerful and beautiful. Basically, the men are men and the women are women. Even Gambit is his usual flirty self, which I was honestly worried the people behind the scenes would find problematic, a term that no serious person uses. I don't really have any problems with this show at all, but there is still plenty of time for Disney to pull a bait and switch on us, so I remain cautiously optimistic. That said, these first 2 episodes were truly great. They gave me exactly what I would want out of a new X-Men animated series, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it all goes from here. I appreciate all of the Easter eggs and references throughout, and even if they stick to the comic stories 100%, I won't mind that I know where they're going with it. Either way, that's all I have for you today. My name's Dean James, your mate in comics from the land down under. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.